So the thing is that if you look at QA versus dev versus different lines of dev or whatever it is, you would see that most of the diversity that we talk about is in QA.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So if you look at QA as a profession, okay, then women in testing, you would find the percentage to be really, really high.
Yes,
Okay.
compared to dev, yes.
Correct,
Yes.
right? So the dev needs more diversity and more women in development than in QA, right? So, no,
I
that
will
is
tell you. I will tell you one more. I will tell you one more thing. Okay. Now, I do not know if it is a social stigma or if it is a true statement. Okay. A lot of women come to testing because there is a notion that testing is easier and is
it's
technically less difficult.
correct. It
Okay.
is.
Now, maybe a social stigma. This
Mm.
may be a false statement, but there is certain amount of truth to it. Okay,
Mm.
I know that the recording is on and I'm saying this, but मैं ये उड़ा दूंगा ये portion
No,
ताकि
I'll give you a parallel view of mine. Okay. If you look at the offshore industry, okay, the offshore industry is more towards maintenance, okay, of quality. And if you look at the core dev, it will all based out of India, or some part of it will be in India. With the startups coming in, it's more now dev oriented center, right? But you and me, when we have started our career, we used to always do maintenance. I have never done core dev work in any of my projects. It's always like कि चार डिफेक्ट आए हैं तुम फिक्स कर दो और प्रोडक्शन में डाल दो, टेस्ट भी मत करो, प्रोडक्शन डाल दो.
correct.
So if you look at the pattern of how the industry has evolved over a period of time, you would see that it's not about total stigma that I would say it's a mindset that people have that, okay, now if I look at the industry, there are so many QA jobs that are there. So it's better to go into QA because the amount of passing percentage or whatever it is, if you can think about, is more rather than in dev. Second notion is that
Interview passing percentage.
interview passing percentage is more. Second, कि मैं तो कॉलेज में कर दिया था because if you look at it, so in 2001, okay, when I started my career, started my journey in engineering, there was this question in front of me that which subject should I choose? Okay, so I'll start from there. So my dad said, okay, that Soumya, that in that time, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu was heading entire IT boom in India, right? So in based out of Hyderabad. So my dad said that see, information technology is one of the best brand, so, and it's very really coming up. So you should go in that. Okay.
Yeah,
What I've
Chandrababu Naidu and Krishna. Those were the
correct,
two guys. Yeah, yeah.
two guys, right? So I said, but I want to go in electronics because all my friends are going in electronics. Okay, so now if you look at the amount of seats that we have from engineering, right? You computer science and IT are 30, 60 people or 60, 120 people. But the majority of people are into electronics instrumentation, mechanical, civil. Look at the amount of engineering seats that we have compared to the IT people, right?
Yeah.
Now, when these people come out, okay, of engineering, they do not know about programming. They do not know what's compiler, what's OS, what database, what distributed systems, nothing. So if you look at the percentage of people who are there in the QA, you will find that there are very less IT CS people in QA versus this lot.
Yes, that is right. That is correct. Yeah, I remember one of my gurus, one of my mentors. He was MA in English honors,
Mm.
and he is a super tester. He's so with Master of Arts and and having English honors, English literature being his subject, and somebody who has studied Shakespeare,
Mm.
he was a testing expert, or rather he is, and I learned from him. So it's definitely possible. I mean, I know of people who are like
Absolutely.
commerce
Now, if you consider those
commerce
people, I'm not
languages.
saying if you consider those people, and I'll not say that they might not pick up core development, but most of them have not done it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So now what has happened is that if you look at these people, it's their mindset has become that in a QA is more easier because there are a lot
yeah,
of people there.
yeah, yeah,
That's the whole game.
yeah.
You
Okay,
and
so I
me
want.
are you and me are there in QA because of our choice. Okay. We have made that choice of being a tester rather than in a developer. We can still develop, right?
Yeah,
But we chose
yeah.
not to go into that path because I don't know, like,
No,
if I tell you,
I started off in that path, but when this option came along, I said, no, I'll choose this. Okay, I will do this and I will choose to stick to this for as long as I can. Well, okay, so
right.
since we are already recording, let me just very quickly welcome you, Soumya. I'm doing this in a totally different format today. So, welcome everyone to another episode of TesterSpeak Special Feature, and with me is my good friend Soumya Mukherjee. He is a good friend, um, uh, a brother, more of, and my go-to person for any sort of technical question that I have. Any, and I mean it seriously. Any technology, any tool. If I have a question, this is the person I go to, and every single time he has an answer for me, and that answer is 101% correct. Okay, because that has always helped me. So if I say, for example, I'm working on helping a customer with a certain tool chain that I'm trying to propose, I will always run it by Soumya first. Okay, and ask him if I'm thinking in the right direction, and get it validated from him, because that is the level of confidence that I have in the solutions that he's always provided. So that's what Soumya is for me. So thank you guys. And as you would have seen that we are trying to do something totally different. We started talking, and now I am doing this introduction, but that's how I'm going to keep it. Okay, I'm going to probably need some editing skills to check out some of the stuff that we've already said while the recording was on. So welcome to the show, Soumya.
Thank you very much for hosting me today.
Yeah, see, and see, this is how he becomes when I start.
Formally introduced. I know.
He suddenly
You know.
becomes so serious.
So
Usually he's not. So,
yeah.
by the way, what we were talking about when the recording started, we started talking about women in testing, and we started discussing as to why is it that you know um, that there is a need for something like women in testing, or there is no need, or whatever it is. And Soumya made a very good point that if we compare the number of women in testing versus the number of women in development, I think we need more of women in development initiatives, because more and more women need to go in that direction. And we were trying to figure out as to what could be the reasons why we see a lot more women in the field of testing and doing so well. In fact, women are doing really well in testing. And uh, how could we have see an environment where we see more of women going in the direction of development as well? And I do not know if it was recording then or whatever. I don't want to Probably I'll check when I finally edit this video. But then just to repeat for the audience, there is some sort of a social feeling that we can go there, we can excel, we can do this. But there are more number of opportunities in testing compared to that in development. Is one of the things that we mentioned, and then Soumya followed it up with his analysis, which is actually true. Where we when we pass out from the colleges, uh, there is this you know choice that we need to make. Okay, whether we want to go this side or that side, and a lot of us inadvertently have chosen testing, like Soumya and me. We have done that choice. Okay, I was a developer. I got a chance to test and I stuck to it. I made that choice. And Soumya, he has
Can I say
very
something?
good skills.
Uh,
Sorry.
what, can I say something?
Yeah.
So I made a choice few years after I joined my first company. Okay, to be very frank. So the story is I joined L&T Infotech as my first company, and I joined as a .NET developer. Okay, so we had this 3 months rigorous training of what all and what not, and then we had been pushed into, not being asked, pushed into certain areas. Okay, so I was being I've started as a .NET developer, and I was doing fairly okay. So, but the main problem was that I know, and we were not, we were very, I would say, we were we were we thought of being very blessed because we're in development. Okay, so that way it's like SDLC, in the SDLC process we comes first and testing comes last. So we
Yeah.
are like, we are the coolest guy in the world, right? So, but and my girlfriend, who is now my wife, right? So, I used to see her that she would go to office at 9, come by 6, and I have production issue. So I come at 4 a.m. in the morning. I come 6 a.m. in the morning, and then I have to again go at 9 a.m. in the morning to office. And the cycle was continuing for 6-8 months, and likewise. And I was not able to give time to my then girlfriend, right? So, uh, I asked one day to her, and very seriously, on a Sunday, we were doing breakfast in one of the coffee shop, and I asked her, "You go 9 a.m. in the morning, come by 6. Okay, I go 9 a.m. in the morning, I come 2 a.m. in the morning. What do you guys do? Because my package is same, my experience is same. I come from a good college, you come from a good college. So if everything is same, then why is this that I cannot see the evening sun and you can see the evening sun?" So she told me that she's in testing. So I said, testing? What kind of crappy stuff it is? It is SDLC last process and we hardly care. We write our code and push into production. And if there is so I still remember one instance that I got a call at 3 a.m. in the morning. And one of the biggest insurance company we were developing for, and I got a call from an on-site coordinator that you have to come to office now. Okay, so I went there and I understood the problem that somebody wrote, rather than an update statement in a stored procedure, an insert statement in a stored procedure.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it was like for every update, it was writing an insert, and it was a total chaos in the database.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I had to go because somebody made that problem, and I had to go and had to fix it, right? So I asked my girlfriend, you do testing, but is it okay? So she said, yeah, it is fantastic. We write code. You write code, okay? So what do you write? Do you write if conditions? Yes. Do you write switch statement? Yes. Oh wow. So do you write loops? Yes. Do you connect to database? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I also do the same thing. You go 9 a.m., come 6 p.m. I go 9 a.m. I come 2 a.m. I want to move out of development.
Oh my God.
So I
So,
made that conscious decision. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, please, please.
So I made that conscious decision, and then I asked her, who is that I can connect with, and I want to take an IJP. Okay, and you won't believe the person who actually approved my IJP. It was Aditya Gar. Okay, so he was in L&T, he was in BFS, I was in insurance, and I was making that move. Okay, so people approved the IJP, so I'm in testing now. Okay, so now testing, I don't know what is testing, right? So I asked her, what do you do? You said you write code. Show me what code you write. So they used to write code in QTP,
Hmm.
which is
BB script.
now
BB
VB
script,
script.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Right. And it was fairly okay. For me, it is fine because something is running. I can still code, and that all. Okay. But in the very next week, Aditya called me and said, Soumya, you have to give ISTQB. Okay. These guys are preparing for 1 month. There is a training happening. You sit and you write the exam. I said, okay, let me try it. So I studied hard ISTQB. Okay. And then I sat right next to my girlfriend because she is from the same view, and I was sitting, trying to cheat. Okay. And I was not able to get any answer because she was not showing me anything. So I failed the exam.
Yeah. Oh,
So I failed. So I flunked ISTQB testing certification. And she passed.
more pressure.
So so I went to Aditya. I said, Adi, I failed. So, I hope you will not release me from BFS. So what should I do? So he was very, very hopeful. He said, yeah, it happens. Don't worry. Okay. You study hard. Next exam, you book and you give the exam. Okay. So I studied hard this time. Okay. And this time I scored 86%. So I passed. So one of the milestone is achieved in testing. Okay. Now there was this QTP new thing that has come up, which was called as descriptive programming that time. Right. So descriptive programming, just to give a short, is like I have certain properties of the object, and I do not want to record that object in my OR, so I would use those unique properties to make that object unique.
Correct. Yeah.
And I went to one senior guy. Okay. And I asked him, okay, because there was an assignment that I have to also code, and people have had this feeling of that whoever knows descriptive programming in automation, that person is the biggest person in the world. So
Yes.
I have to become a biggest person. So I went to him. I said, can you tell me about descriptive programming? So he looked at me like this. He was sitting like this. He was looked at me. Okay. But I don't know descriptive programming. Who said that I know descriptive programming? And I still now realize, and still I have that screen in my mind that he was writing the descriptive programming and he did not tell me. Right. So you know how people are there in the industry that they don't want to share. So that day I have made this as my motto of teaching people whatever I know.
Yeah.
Whatever I know, I will teach people.
Yes.
Okay. Even if I tell them incorrect stuff.
I am a testimony to that. So yeah, go ahead.
So
Go
I
ahead.
made that motto that whether if I know incorrect also, but if I know, I will teach. Okay. So then it has started becoming a serious career for me, and automation was one of the key thing that I was leading there. Adi gave me the first project as performance project, and then I went and did a lot of stuff in automation. I was part of the manual team for Barclays with L&T, and there, Then my manager was Sagat. I think if he listens to this video, he'll be very happy. So he gave me one. So
Swagata
we.
Mitra is
Swagata
Swagata
Mitra,
Mitra.
yeah. So he gave me one. So there was this problem of centralized reporting that Barclays had, wherein Barclays has given us a big template to fill in every week or every month. I don't remember now, but and every number has to come from QC, quality center, and I have written macro-based solution which would basically connect to QC from the backend and pull in every possible data and would fill in the Barclays sheet, the reporting sheet in a minutes of seconds. That was the first assignment which I did in my career in automation, and actually I'm feeling very proud. And the same type of assignment I did again for L&T, for Standard Bank, wherein they have to actually collate all the data set for 106 or 8 projects, and in a minute of minutes, you just compile all the time kind of PMO reports. Sorry, I talked too much.
No, you are supposed to. This is your show. Okay, so you are the guest, and I am supposed to keep. Okay, now some very interesting things. One thing is, I like the disclaimer that you put. My girlfriend, who is my wife now. So I like that disclaimer. It is important to clarify because if she is listening, and she will definitely will, so she has to know that okay, you are talking about her and nobody else. so that was good. The second thing is I like how you transitioned and how you developed a passion for it, and I know you are very passionate about it. And most importantly is the final thing that you mentioned, that your first assignment, you did something, your first automation assignment, you did, what you did was to basically help prepare a report. So if people out there are thinking that automation, when we talk about automation, it is just restricted to converting some, I'm using the word, okay, some manual test cases into automation. No, you have to remove those blinkers and have to look beyond. This is also automation, what Soumya just told about. You can improve your reports. You can do magic with your reporting. You can do test data management with automation. You can do test data generation with automation. Okay, you can do a lot more, right, Soumya? I mean, you want to add something to it? What
Yes.
all stuff to do with automation?
Yes, I'll tell you. I'm very fortunate. I can't take my current employer's name, but you guys can understand from it. Here we have actually gone ahead of quality, to be very frank. Okay. People have this notion of automation, but we have added a factor of reliability into it. Okay, so we would do our quality stuff, but we will also ensure that the reliability stuff would also move together. When I say reliability stuff, now one of the important problems that to solve in this industry is how to reduce our production defects. Okay. So there are severity defects coming in production. There is so much code exceptions coming in, right? Think about that. If I do not have any exceptions in my code, do I have reduction in my defects? Definitely, I will have.
Yeah.
But I will definitely have some part of it, because that exception can be a code exception which can relate to a defect.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
So I may have some reduction to it. So let's take first step of reducing the exceptions in your code.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Then we, as a QA, if you look at it, most of the people would think about QA as, I will take one case which has been prepared by manual, I will automate it, and I'm done. But have you looked at the requirement? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I need to first understand what's the requirement. I need to then analyze whether you have written the correct test case or not. Okay, and then I'll automate, because most of the automation that fails is where you would see that there is a gap between the understanding of how the QA test case has been written and how you have automated it.
Yes.
So most of the failures comes into that part. The other reliability factor that we have ensured is to have a centralized reporting. Now, all these bigger organizations, if you look at it, and even in your organization and or some other organizations also, if I have a team of around 200, let's assume, and I have 200 automation testers, 199th person, if he's automating something and executing something, do you know what he has done? Probably not.
No.
Because there is no centralized way that the data would flow in. Okay, so what you do is you ask him, okay, you call him and you ask him, how many test cases did you automate? He will call and he will say, today I did 20. So what's the percentage? Now I have increased my percentage from 20 to 36%. You are happy because as a project manager, you are very happy because your team made some progress. But think about the scenario that if you know what the guy is doing, how it is executing, you collect so much data in QA itself.
Yeah.
To make that intelligent analysis and they provide recommendations to the team what they can basically needs to do, or when there is a code change, how can we analyze stuff. That is one of the key pieces that I am trying to put across. Okay, so send some kind of a dashboard, central dashboard, that anything happens anywhere in my QA teams, everything gets noted. I collect so much data that I can reanalyze and see what's the stability of my scripts, how my pack executed, how many defects it has got, uh, whether I have made the coverage, the code coverage in the right percentage or not. One thing which people do not do is they do not instrument their code, they do not run their pack, and they never analyzed how much is the code coverage. That's automation too.
Yes.
Right? So if I now know that I have 10,000 lines of code and my QA code which I am writing, automation which I'm running now is only cost 5,000, that means you have still 5,000 lines of code left, which is actually making probably the defects that are there in the production.
That's true. Yep.
So why can't we increase that lines of code from 5,000 to say 7,000, 8,000, see if there is a change in the defects that are coming in production or not. So one of the key things what automation testers do not do right now is correlating their data that they are themselves generating to understand how the system is behaving.
Right. Right. Well, that is some insight into the capabilities that automation can actually bring in, and but before I continue on talking about automation and stuff like that, I want to bring you a little backwards and talk about testing in general. Now, whether we like it or not, there is this big debate between automation and manual, and this is better and that is better and so on.
Absolutely.
What is your take? What is your opinion? I never got a chance to ask you, so I'm asking now.
So to be very frank, I'll tell you how do I recruit people. Okay. So I do not take if somebody tells me that I do automation, okay, I would always try to understand from his profile how much QA in a general. So I would not categorize things as manual and automation. For me, it's QA. Okay,
Yes.
so because if I talk about manual and automation, there is this boundary that I'm making in my own process, okay, and which I am distributing people across, which is not a right way to do actually. Okay, so for me it's a QA. Now we need to see how we can improve the process and in improvement of the process, I'm doing automation, but as part of the QA.
Yeah.
So how do I recruit people? Is I basically ask them that what application they're working on, how are they testing it at this moment, and then I give some questions on requirement understanding. So one of my favorite question, and people would would love to take this kind of a question, is that how do you think that your requirement is complete and testable?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good point. Not a lot of us, look at testability being one of the factors. So that's a perfect question. Please go on.
So I generally ask them, how do you make sure that your requirement is complete and testable? And then I see whether that person can actually make test data for his testing or not.
Yeah.
So I gave them, and this I have learned in my own experience. One of my, I'm not sure, I am not in touch with her from a very long time now, but she is at a very senior position in Barclays in Pune. And she taught me this when I was in London. Okay. And one day she came barging, at us and saying that, and I'll connect to what I'm just saying to the point, right? So one day she came barging into us and saying that, do you have you guys gone mad? And we were looking at her and we knew that something was not right. Okay. And she told us that so what we did actually, and what's the mistake that we did, and is that we have populated all the fields of our application in an Excel, wrote an intelligent code. I'm just kidding. Okay. And created whole lot of combinations, permutations and combinations of the data. And we think that if we test this, we make sure that our system will not break because it connects with all the set of data. So she came into us and she says that, you guys are telling us that if we run down our automation through 10,000 lines of code, okay, but do you have, okay, but did you think of one aspect, which is how much time are you going to take? Because those are end-to-end data set. Okay. So she came and she told us that why can't you reduce these 10,000 lines of code to something optimal test data set? And you won't believe, Brijesh, from 10,000 lines of code, we reduced to 200 lines of code. Because one of the key factors we missed, and that is there in QA, is that you need to test that field or that feature at least once.
Correct.
So if I am making sure that I'm testing the field or the case at least once, or the feature at least once, that means I'm reducing my test data set, eliminating some of the data, and making sure my data is optimal.
Correct.
So I generally give interview question as there are two drop downs. One has got 10 data, okay, in one, say 1 to 10, and one has A to G or F, 5 data. What's the maximum, what's the minimum, and what's the optimal data set that you would create for a QA? If these two questions are being answered properly to my level of understanding, okay, then I think that person knows QA, because in Hindi we say nakal ke liye akal chahiye, right? So I do not consider automation as nakal, but it is kind of a nakal for me, right? So to do that process, you need to have some akal, and to have that akal, you should know how you actually would test the system.
Yeah, for the audience in English, it is in order to copy, you do need some brains. Okay, without brain, copying stuff will not work. Okay, so yeah, so I'm continue.
So if you look at it, if you look at this particular process, this is a QA process, this is a testing process. People call it as manual process. Okay. So I would suggest that to do automation, people should know how is manual. So when I recruit people, I do not give them automation tasks at at that instance. Even if I hired an automation guy. Why I do that? One, to break down his stigma of being and I'll be very stubborn here, okay, being because I've seen people how they treat the manual testers, okay, the automation people. So I break that stigma of being superior in the team, and nobody is superior in the team. I am also not superior in the team, even if I am the boss, right? So I make them do manual for quite some time, and I tell them that in the process you would do automation. And then I see how they are collaborating with the team, because collaboration is one of the key aspects in our QA, right? So how they're collaborating. And then I ask them to probably stop doing it, because one, they will understand how this process would work, how they will learn how to collaborate, and then they can continue with the manual testing. So that's one of the things that I do. Second, what I do is I always believe in grooming people. So there is something called as upskilling people.
Yeah.
So if somebody is in manual or doing manual QA, I make sure that they get some opportunity to basically do automation, so they know both the flavors of QA, how it works out. So I won't say that there is a huge gap between manual and automation. It's part of the one process, but how people see it is the question here. I hope I answered the question.
Oh, you did, and I must say that if you are a company looking for automation testers, this is the way you should be doing your hiring. I have seen, and in fact, today I was reading somewhere in one of the groups on WhatsApp or probably Telegram, you know, two rounds of interviews. The first round, there is some code that is given, and you have to give answers based on that code. And this is a testing interview we are talking about, okay? Nobody is talking about, I mean, you gave a perfect example of test data optimization, okay? Nobody is talking about that. Nobody is talking about factors like testability. Nobody is talking about, applying critical thinking. Nobody is talking about risk analysis, okay? People are not talking about these subjects in the interviews at all. They are missing from the job description. Okay, from the job description, that's totally missing. If you read the job descriptions of automation testers these days, I mean, I laugh so much reading those. Uh, uh, our good friend, there is this person, Ravi Bhaskaran, who uses a very nice term. He says, "You're looking for Bahubali 2.0." Basically, it's like I mean, if you look at those job descriptions, it's like you have to write code. You have to make sure that all the dishes in your kitchen are done, all the clothes are washed neatly, neat and tidy. You have to probably add one more line in the job description. You should be capable of driving your boss to the office and back to his home. Probably that's the part that is missing. I mean, it's really absurd the way the job descriptions are built these days. You are talking about a testing job description. You're talking about testing, and testing itself is missing in the whole job description.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not even going there. You're talking about code. Come on, understand. So you made some very good points, Soumya, and I like that approach where you probe into their testing abilities in a very unique way through those drop down examples. That's a really cool one. I might steal that from you. Okay, I'm just telling you, steal that idea because I like that whole idea of test data optimization. So what
I want
more?
to I
Sorry,
want to
go
add
ahead.
a couple of things more. Okay, here. These days, testers, they're so obsessed with automation. Okay, I'm myself an automation guy, and I'm that doesn't mean that I'm against them, but it's all about how they're thinking. Okay, it's all about thinking process, correct? So one of the key aspects that people think and they do not take into account is, and that's we always do in our QA, is matching expected versus actual. For them, automation is doing something on the screen and it is done.
Yeah.
But did you check what was your acceptance criteria of either the feature or the expected result of your test case? Have you looked at it at each step?
Yeah.
Something is running does not mean that you have passed the quality criterias in the process, right?
Yeah.
Automation will help you, but you need to still incorporate the quality features to to say that it is automated quality kind of a process. Okay, automation testing, I still don't visualize it, but it has to have a quality queue somewhere, because that is one of the most thing. One more thing which I wanted to highlight here is, and this I obviously want our viewers to know that uh, people who come from an automation background, okay, what they say is that I know Selenium, I know APM, I know Protractor, I know Cypress, I know WebDriver. You are talking about tools. If you know one tool, you will know all the tools. Okay, because every tool works the same way.
Yes.
There is, the process is different, the framework is different probably, but it's all about object and object locators, events, and data. Apart from these three four criteria, nothing changes in automation. Okay. So one of the key feature which people, and when you solve highly complex queries like big data testing, okay, big data testing. I had been involved in a couple of these assignments very recently, and I'm actually managing the data QA team, okay, in my company. And you wouldn't believe that to automate that particular process, one, you need to have pure understanding of QA. That means you can basically need to understand what's your expected, how is your actual coming, in how is the data flowing down, at which level that you would do your QA, right? People don't look at it like when you and me look at it. We see system as a whole. We see from a system it goes to this downstream, this downstream, this downstream, and we then put our stars in between. If you look, I unfortunately cannot show how do I write my own approach diagrams, for QA. But what I do is that I basically write a workflow of the systems or the process, and then see what are my entry criteria, what are my exit criteria, and star them.
Exactly.
That is how you know how the system will behave, what are the key checks that you will perform at those integration points, and what are the system level checks. So one of the important thing when you are automating this end-to-end process is about data structure and algorithms. Because in this big data project which I was working on, in this data QA project, I had to apply a lot of brain in the data structure that I would use and the algorithms that I would put across to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Because here I'm talking about millions and millions of records. So I know how to do my quality. So now the if I am a QA, I know how to check my end-to-end system. Okay. But when you do automation, People have, who's ever mentioning these particular tools will not fit in, because the problem is very different. You need to apply now the tool on a problem, but you have that something in the middle that you need to solve in order to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So data structure and algorithms are the two key things that people should know if they want to approach automation correctly.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. I mean that's the star technique is actually very helpful. What I normally do to a problem is basically understand basically the architecture of the application. That's very
Absolutely.
important for me. I would spend
Yes.
time with developers, architects, question
Yes.
them, right? So my basic approach is always to understand the data flow and the control flow in the application, and based on the data flow and the control flow, build checks. Okay, whatever you might want to call it. You might want to call it an assert or whatever. You might want to call it a star or whatever. That's how I build it, and that's how it helps me understand that okay, if I put in some logic here, some code here,
Yes.
then I will
Yes.
be able to verify. And and,
Yes.
and, and, and in doing so, applying these algorithms and data structures, it goes a long way. So if you cannot visualize the entire system in
It
the
will
form
not
of a
able.
flowchart, okay, you will not be able to do it. And how many people or how many automation engineers, so to speak, uh, these days
Don't
actually
do it.
think about flowcharts.
Don't
Okay,
do it.
the very basic thing that we learned when we were, learning about computers and things like that,
Correct.
whether in school or in college or whatever. We learned about
Absolutely.
flowcharts. We don't even speak about it right now. Okay,
Absolutely.
and if I have seen people referring to Google when I ask them to draw flowcharts. They're like, I don't even know the symbols. I'm like crazy.
Correct. Yeah. 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 So recently,
So
there is somebody who came to me and said, Soumya, I am giving you a person, who is very strong in Python. Okay. And, he would do your job. I said, I looked at him and I said, okay, but where to put Python? Okay. So that was the question. So you are saying that, this guy is good in Python, but where should I put Python? Do you have that understanding of where to put Python? नहीं नहीं ये तो जावा सेलेनियम से हो जाएगा. अरे did you understand the problem statement? Do you what is my underlying tech? Do you know how my tech is working? And you're absolutely right that a flowchart kind of a approach helps here, because you can visualize. Because I believe that if you want to become a very good automation tester, or in fact QA, you need to see your system running in your head.
Yep.
If you do not, if you do not, are you not, if you're not able to see it, you're not able to build it.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I want to bring in another aspect. So, people talk about growing in the testing hierarchy, test engineer, senior test engineer. They want to become test leads and test managers because that was the traditional thing that
Mindset.
we learned. Yeah, and now suddenly agile, this big beast is there, agile, and then a bigger beast called DevOps is there, and suddenly the test manager role is gone. Okay, the test lead role is gone, and people are wondering what to do. Now, the point here that I'm trying to make is how many times when we were transitioning from a test engineer to a senior test engineer to a test lead in our careers, have we thought about aspects like, okay, it is not just about that power and authority that I will get with those roles. Okay, I will control a team and there will be people working for me and all that. Instead of that, have you looked at it from a progression in terms of your responsibility as a tester? You're still a tester, right? You still will be doing testing. Okay, maybe you might want to go hands off at a certain point. Okay, but as long as you are involved in testing, you are a tester. Whether you're hands on or hands off, is a different thing. We'll talk about it later. But as long as you're thinking about testing, how many testers do we see actually visualizing their career in terms of seeing, okay, tomorrow if I get a project, I want to understand what the problem the customer is facing. Okay, if the application that is being built actually solves that problem for the customer, and if I am doing some testing, it is in line with the solution that is being built to solve that problem. Now,
Correct.
whether I use tools or code to solve that problem, or I do not use tools or code to solve that problem, is a different matter. But in any event, do I understand what is the technology stack that I have? Okay, how many people, how many testers? If you just go and ask a tester in any project, do you know the tech stack of the application that you're working on? The, you will get very weird answers from people. Okay, do you know the architecture? They will say, why do I need to know the architecture? They will say.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, people will ask you these sort of questions, and it surprises me when people tell me this. That as a tester, why do I need to know the architecture? Okay,
Correct.
thankfully, due to agile or whatever, I mean, even before agile, it was there. Thankfully, due to agile or DevOps, we have seen an increase in roles like test architects. Okay, so thankfully, there is some wisdom being put behind the fact that, okay, if you do testing, you need somebody to architect that piece of test automation framework or whatever you're trying to build. Now, if you are focusing that much, then can't you also think a little beyond and look at the architecture of the application to understand the end-to-end
Absolutely.
flow? Yeah.
Well,
So these are some of the things. And as you were telling, I started thinking, yes, that is so true. I mean, as testers, we don't even think about it. I mean, we are like, okay, here's an application. Okay, here's what we need to do. Here's some requirements, something in the product backlog. I have to write test cases. These days, they say manual test cases, convert them into automation test cases. Okay, probably use Java Selenium because I will need to automate my UI, and probably, okay. So people are pushing for more and more automation. So I will use REST API to do my API automation, and then I am done. Okay, I will look forward to my next promotion. Okay, that's the kind of mindset a lot of people have. So thank you for bringing this to light and speaking in the most eloquent way you normally do. That's so that
can
was
I?
really
There's a hilarious fact that you would we probably end laughing is that people want to people enjoy power. Okay, and you know that, right? So people enjoy power, and because of this power problem, that they want to go up to the hierarchy. If you look at the Western culture, everybody is happy to do what they're doing, and they're okay to get a role that they're in. Okay, they don't want that levels of promotions and all that stuff. What I do with my people is, even if I recruit a small engineer at this moment, but I know what he is doing, how he is approaching to a problem. If he needs help, he knows where to reach out. I am client to a lot of people at this moment, but I still may believe that those people are part of the same group, right? So we are doing the same thing, and I do not see them as client and vendor thing. So I always believe that how people are thinking, how they are approaching a problem, what help do they need, and they should not be fearing me to not reach me. Most of the people you think and you see in this industry and who are in this particular community is fearing to go to their leaders and asking them, how should I do it? And the leaders are not even bothering, and I will probably offend a lot of people today that they are not even bothered, what they are lowest engineers doing. Okay,
yes,
but
that is so.
that's not how the community would grow at all. And you won't believe, and I will offend a lot of people today, is that we started with an engineer, we went to a senior engineer, we went to an architect, we become a manager. I want to become a manager, I want to become a senior manager, I want to become a VP, I want to become a director. But now everybody wants to become an SDET. So that means
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is a reverse flow coming in from ED to an SDET. Okay, and everybody now wants to write an SDET tag. Who, where,
I'll
which
give you a
shows
funnier
the
one.
organizations.
I'll give you a funnier one than is that. These days, everybody wants to be a full stack QA.
Correct, full stack. Correct, correct. Full stack
The full
QA.
stack.
I heard that new term. Good.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Recently I was a part of a panel discussion at Step-in Summit, and
You were there.
and I was asked this question: what do you think of full stack QA? And I thought, and this was my response for those who did not attend could not attend the Step-in Summit. What I said is, on LinkedIn, I met a person whose designation was full stack recruiter. Okay,
uh,
and then the very next day, I see a person with a designation full stack marketing specialist. Okay, so probably I am looking for a position of a full stack CEO. So the day I become a full stack CEO, I will approve of a full stack QA. This full stack is just a jargon. It means nothing, to be very
absolutely.
honest. Okay. Similarly, I will also go ahead and offend a lot of people. The whole SDET thing. Okay, Microsoft started it with a purpose.
Correct.
If you look into the history of the term SDET, Microsoft had a purpose. They wanted development engineers to help people in testing by writing some code to help them test better. That was the objective. That is why they had software development engineer in test. That is how SDET came into existence, and that is a Microsoft term. But people got so fascinated with it that they have now made a mockery of the whole SDET thing, and everybody, like you said, wants to become an SDET. I mean, SDET is not a superhero. Okay, it's no rocket science. It's basically a developer writing code for testing to test better. There is no doubt, at least in my mind, and definitely in your mind, that knowledge of code, knowledge of tools, will make us better testers.
Absolutely.
Okay, there is absolutely no iota of doubt there. It will help us communicate, like you use the term collaborate, better with developers. Okay, it will help us understand business and business solutions better. Okay, we will be able to contribute to the solutions if we start thinking in terms of code, in terms of logic. Okay, we will be able to do a much better job. And I do not know what I said, but my Google Assistant just woke up and is showing me some factors affecting business, blah blah. So, funny technology. Okay, yeah. So do we? So the point is, do we understand what we are trying to achieve with automation, or even with testing? Do we understand the rules better? Probably not. Another example, and I want your views on this one before I move on to something interesting, is robotic process automation, RPA, and test automation. I already see you shaking your head. So, what has been your encounter or your experience with that?
People will stop hiring me if, if I give you that answer. Okay, I'll tell you how it is. With RPA and all that stuff, right? They may have what they have done. Okay, if you look at it, they have made the process what has happened and where people following manually, they automated the process. Okay. Something like, let's take an example of SAP or some CRM based application. They're all transactional based systems.
Yes.
That means I push a transaction, then transaction knows what it has to do. Correct. Similarly, in RPA, they have automated the process. I have an invoice. I'll read the invoice. I'll email it. There is a payment that would happen. There is some process that would happen.
Yeah.
Can't I do it with open source tools? Absolutely yes. Then why I do need an RPA? Because, and that's what people think, is that they have all the wrappers written in this world. And why they are getting popular is because they have written all the wrappers. People don't want to invest in writing, or connecting these tools or whatever it is. They need a ready product, and that is where people are going to them. But people who do not wish to buy those expensive tools can still be able to write different things to optimize their process. So not to optimize but to automate the process. So that's my take on RPA tools. So for me, I won't term it as rubbish, but people are intelligent enough to understand what they are.
I had a TesterSpeak interview with Mukesh Otwani a couple of weeks ago, and we all know who Mukesh Otwani is and his stature in terms of talking about automation, teaching automation goes, and he does a fantastic job. And he also mentioned something really good, that he said that if you are thinking that you are using Selenium or a tool like that just for converting a few manual test cases and and writing automation, you're going nowhere. Okay, he changed a workflow in his entire application, and we were supposed to do something with support tickets. Okay, I would want people to go and watch this episode by not disclosing the whole thing, but it was something to do with support tickets and the process, the time that was required to respond to a process from 15 odd minutes, it is now reduced to 2-3 minutes. So that is the capability that you bring in with these open source tools. Okay, you can do this with Selenium, and it is not necessary that you look at it from that perspective. So completely agree with you, Soumya, on that. And even
So
I don't.
only challenge that you would get is the level of interfaces that you would connect with. Okay.
Correct.
You may end up with a PDF or a desktop or a web or a mainframe or X, Y, Z. So if you can connect these dots with those tools, I think you're done.
Correct. Yeah. I completely agree with you on your thoughts on RPA, and I do not want people to get confused between test automation and robotic process automation. We are talking about two different things. You would still need test automation to verify or validate what your
Yes.
products are actually doing. So let's keep that disaggregated. Now, Soumya, I know that you are okay. You are one of the coolest people I know in terms of automation. I have so many people that I know are super cool, and you are one of them. So I want a little. I want you to show a little glimpse of what you have been up to recently to the audience, so people know that okay, this is something that Soumya likes doing. Can we see the screen on your laptop? How
So I'll just give you a brief before we get into it. Okay, I may not be able to show right now what exactly I'm doing for somebody because there are certain disclosures which I can't show. But I will show something which I did previously in the past, and I'll tell you what was the thought process, how did I build it, and and likewise. And this,
whatever you can do whatever you can show within like five minutes or something like that. Not a long one.
Yeah, just give me a second.
I think you are the presenter, so that should not be a problem. Let's check.
Yeah. I'm just opening some things. Loading. So, a couple of things which I wanted to mention, and I feel really, really proud about it. Okay, to be very frank, because um, what I did 5, 6 years back, okay, I see people doing it now. So I'm very happy that uh, I was able to think of those problem statements. It's a different matter, why I did not pursue it or why did we not be successful in it. But from a from a personal point of view, gives me immense pleasure and sense of achievement of what I have done. Uh, this statement may offend somebody, but that's okay. Just let me share my screen.
So
I
when I create a thumbnail of this video, I will mark it with an offensive label.
No, because I have made those statements to those people that I can help you. I can visualize what you are doing because I've done the things in the past. But do you want to make your product better? And you and me both come with a skill, Brijesh, wherein we can take up stuff to the next level. We know how to do it.
Yes, yes.
And they have outrightly ignored and not accepted any help which I was giving it in free. So
I
so that's
wouldn't do
okay.
that.
So probably it's a mindset. My go-to
Yeah.
meeting may go, because it is asking me to restart when I share my screen. So can I do
No,
that?
no. You will rejoin. It's okay. Just
Oh,
rejoin.
yeah, I'm restarting it.
Nothing will happen. Yeah, you're back.
Share. That's okay. So I will share. Can you give my other user the access for presentation?
Yes, and should we have it now?
Sure, thanks. I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, can see your screen.
Okay, so this is one of the thing which I did uh, when I was a co-founder of a company named QA Agility, and this was one of the coolest stuff that I built up on open source tool Selenium, and I made a tweak on a TestNG. I've written a custom wrapper over TestNG, and it has the feature of helping the testers to automate their stuff for web and mobile. Why did I create this tool? And obviously there is a purpose behind it. Right? So since I was running a startup, and there are a lot of young engineers uh, which I have given the opportunity to coming and working with the company. So I wanted that the standardization across the code should remain, and nobody can basically come and write any filthy code. There may be there were a few code review process and everything, but I wanted my engine to be uh, not having those problems. Generally what people have. So I made this scriptless testing tool, which was then popular, and we were able to provide it to a lot of startups because uh, one idea was to basically bring startups up and running quickly on the test automation piece. and also why the purpose is that every startup wants to have a quick turnaround time. So for their product releases and everything. So this tool was helpful in achieving those factors. So just wanted to show a couple of things, and I would like to show you, say, a creation of case. Okay, so here I was working for a client called SPP, and I think they will be okay. And I was talking about Brijesh earlier in the talk, and I mentioned that there were 3-4 things which are important in automation, which are keywords. Okay, that means what kind of event you would like to perform, what is the object on which you would like to perform, and obviously the object locator and its value and the data. That's about it. So I will just show you this. So this was being written in Springs, Java Spring. So here what you can do is you can create an acceptance driven test case, and the person is basically putting all the keywords and the objects and the locators. Now, one of the key thing, and cool thing was how did we identify this object? Okay, because this object is assigned in, okay, and this has an ID. Now, in test automation, most of the main problem that we have is our test stability, just execution stability. So one thing which was a factor that if my one locator fails, how can I basically flip it to other locators to basically verify whether the object is still there or not. So some kind of a fallback. So I have written an add-on which is in the name of QBot. Okay, so on the Firefox, along with one of my very great person, Amol. I want to give him the credit that he helped me in achieving this. So this keyboard I have just did it. So if you look at it, it's highlighting, right? So this is add-on that would basically click on it, and within it, when you click on it, it gives you all possible locators and its values. So now what used to happen is that here right now I have made it open source and it's under MIT license. Anybody can go ahead and have a look into the source code. But then we have basically made it into two parts. One is that when you would learn the objects, everything would go into the database, and that's where I know that what kind of uh, things are present. So we have not built it since then because we have done it, but it would basically identify. It would also identify then. So 5 years back, we have made this logic so foolproof that if it encounters a object which is inside an iframe, it will tell you that it is inside an iframe. So that level of thing was there. So this was one of the achievement, wherein I have written this particular this add-on. And what used to do is that all these object names is getting auto-populated. So first step was to go into this QBot, learn of the objects. So it's kind of a repository, okay, and then it would basically help you write all the steps, okay, and so here, if you look at it, these are static data, but then you can always parameterize it with with your Excel file or a CSV file or a YAML file or a JSON file. So all these capabilities were present at that time. So this is how.
Basically, Soumya, this gives me an idea, and since we are running out of time, this gives me an idea that we should probably do a webinar from your side, talking to people about how to build such a thing again, and how to take it ahead. And now, the real time issue is there is another scheduled call supposed to begin in another few minutes time.
No problem. No problem. One more thing which I wanted to quickly say is that this book we have written along with Shivram Mani. Shivram is a very good friend of mine. So this is a Selenium starter pack. It may be outdated right now, but then if this is free in Kindle, okay. So you can go ahead and have a look into it. So you would get some basic idea. Whoever wants to start automation, they can basically go ahead.
Well, this was one of the books that I used to get started with Selenium, so I can vouch for it. Okay, and I have worked with Soumya as a part of QA agility, so I know his prowess. So Soumya, before I let you go, a little bit on the fun side of it. What do you do when you are not doing all the schoolwork?
What do I do when I do it? I basically love to maintain my aquarium, and so I do that. And now I have a daughter, so I play with her. Okay, but when she wasn't there, right? So I used to play a lot of Clash of Clans. So Clash of Clans and all those mobile games uh, that I used to play, and then most of my weekends would go into, you know, because I talk a lot, right? As you know, so I will talk to somebody, in the call and tell them what to do, what not to do, some kind of stuff. But
Oh, we have had
apart from that, yeah.
we've had a
Uh,
couple of calls.
Apart from that, I love cooking. So I cook all the 3-4 courses, whatever you would say, I'll make it for you. So that's what I do.
Yeah, in my next Bangalore trip, you're going to host me. That goes without saying. So,
Please come, please come.
all right, it was indeed a pleasure hosting you, Soumya.
Yeah.
It feels like we have cut it short, but when Soumya and I start talking, it just never ends. We have been talking. We don't realize we have been talking for almost 1.5 hours. Okay,
Yeah.
and people who watch this interview will see that we were actually talking even before I introduced Soumya. So that's how our conversation goes. Once we get into something, we just start talking and the flow continues. And like Soumya said, we've had calls which have gone for like hour, 2 hours or something like that, non-stop. And then suddenly we realize, oh God, we have to do something else also, and we've had to drop. So Soumya, I will, work with you on the dates on working on a webinar that we can
Sure.
present on all of this stuff, giving a larger opportunity and where you can share your tips and tricks for people who are interested in automation. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thanks, Utkarsh.
you
It's an
have
indeed a mm, indeed a pleasure to be in this particular thing. I think with our conversations, people would get some idea as to how they need to progress in their career. Uh, that is what we all want, uh, to have a kind of a mentor and somebody who's telling us. And thank you.
thank you so much, Soumya. Enjoy.
Yes. Yeah, you too. Take care.